It was one of those cold mornings that seem to press down on you before the day even began. The kind where your breath shows in the air and everything feels heavy. The sky, the noise, the weight of your own worries. Emma Collins stood at the bus stop outside Sterling Enterprises, holding her coffee thermos close to keep her hands warm. She had been up since 5, getting her daughter ready for school, then rushing to catch the first bus across town. She worked as an assistant in the marketing department, not glamorous, not well paid, but steady enough to keep a roof over their heads. Rent was late again. The car had been broken down for months, and her mother's medical bills were still sitting on the kitchen counter, unopened. But Emma didn't complain much. Life wasn't easy, but she'd learned that kindness cost nothing, and somehow that belief kept her going. That morning, as she hurried toward the tall glass building, she saw an older woman sitting near the entrance. Her clothes were worn, her hair tangled, her hands trembling as she tried to hold a paper cup that had no coffee in it. The guards walked past her like she wasn't even there. Most people did. Emma slowed down. Something about the woman's eyes, tired but searching, stopped her. She reached into her bag and pulled out the sandwich she had packed for lunch, then hesitated. "Here," she said softly, crouching down so they were eye level. "You look cold. Take this, please." The woman looked surprised, as if no one had spoken kindly to her in a long time. "You don't have to," she whispered. "I want to," Emma said, handing her the food. Then she unscrewed the lid of her thermos and poured some coffee into the small cap. "It's not much, but it's warm." The woman smiled faintly and took a sip. "You're kind," she murmured. "People don't stop anymore," Emma smiled back. Maybe they've forgotten what it feels like to need someone. When she got to her desk 20 minutes later, she was late. Her boss, Miranda Hale, was standing by the copier with her arms crossed. Miranda was known around the office for her sharp tone and sharper ambition. She noticed everything, especially mistakes. "Emma," Miranda said, her voice clipped. "You're late again." "And where's your company mug?" Emma blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, I gave it to someone outside." A woman who looked like she needed a warm drink. Miranda's eyebrows shot up. "You what? You gave company property to a stranger?" "It's just a mug," Emma said quietly. "I'll replace it." Miranda's expression hardened. "That's not the point. It's theft, Emma. You know the policy. I can't overlook it." Emma's stomach dropped. "You're firing me? Over a mug?" Miranda didn't flinch. "Over poor judgment. Clean out your desk." Emma packed her things in silence while her co-workers looked away, pretending not to notice. When she stepped back outside, the woman she'd helped was gone. Only a crumpled paper cup remained on the ground. That night, Emma sat at her small kitchen table staring at the bills she couldn't pay. Her daughter, Lucy, drew at the other end of the table, humming softly. Emma smiled weakly at her. "You hungry, sweetheart?" Lucy shook her head. "I'm okay, Mom. You can have the rest." Emma turned away before her daughter could see the tears in her eyes. The next morning, her phone rang. It was the receptionist from Sterling Enterprises. "Emma Collins? Mr. Sterling would like to see you today, 9 a.m. Emma froze. Nathan Sterling, the CEO, was a name everyone at the company said with a mix of awe and fear. He never spoke to anyone below management. "Are you sure?" Emma asked. "Yes. He requested you personally." When she arrived at the executive floor, everything felt foreign. Marble floors, quiet halls, air that smelled faintly of new leather. A tall man in a gray suit stood by the window, his back to her. His voice was calm but carried weight when he spoke. "Ms. Collins, thank you for coming." Emma stood nervously by the door. "Sir, I don't work here anymore." Nathan turned around slowly. His eyes were kind but sharp, the kind that seemed to see right through you. "That's what I wanted to talk about." He stepped closer and Emma's heart skipped. There was something familiar about him. The eyes, the quiet tone. Then he smiled and she froze. "You recognize me now, don't you?" he said. Her mind raced. "It can't be," she whispered. "You were..." Outside your building. Yes, Nathan said softly. I was that woman. Emma stared at him, speechless. He nodded. My name is Nathan Sterling. I've been running a quiet experiment for months, disguising myself and spending time among people who live on the streets. I wanted to see the world the way they do, to understand how our company's policies affect the real world. He took a deep breath. You were the only one who stopped. You offered me food, warmth, and dignity when no one else even looked my way. That moment showed me more about humanity than any report or strategy meeting ever could. Emma's eyes filled. I didn't do anything special. You did exactly what most people wouldn't, Nathan said. And for that I owe you more than thanks. He handed her an envelope. You're reinstated, and I want you to lead a new department. Ethical Community Development. You'll design real programs to help families find housing, jobs, and stability. Emma couldn't speak. Her hands shook as she took the letter. Why me? Because you remember what it means to care, Nathan said simply. From that day, everything changed. Emma threw herself into the work, organizing outreach projects, connecting with shelters, speaking to employees about empathy and social responsibility. Nathan often joined her in the meetings, listening quietly as she shared her ideas. Over time, the distance between CEO and employee faded. They spoke openly, laughed easily. He admired her honesty. She respected his willingness to learn, but not everyone was pleased. Miranda Hale watched the change with cold eyes. She had built her career on control, and Emma's new position threatened her. One evening, Emma stayed late to finish a report. While printing documents, she noticed something odd. A missing trail of transactions from the company's charity fund. The numbers didn't add up. After checking the files twice, she realized what was happening. Miranda had been moving money into fake accounts. The next morning, Emma brought the evidence to Nathan. He looked at the papers quietly, his jaw tightening. Are you certain? I double-checked everything, she said. I didn't want to believe it, but he stood, his voice low. You did the right thing. Let me handle the rest. Within a week, Miranda was gone. The board thanked Emma privately for her integrity. But what mattered more to her was that the stolen money went back into the programs. Real help for real people. Months passed. The company changed. Employees volunteered in shelters. Donations increased, and Emma's department became the heart of Sterling Enterprises. One night, after an event launching their biggest project yet, the Sterling Renewal Center, a network of transitional housing and job programs, Emma stood outside watching the lights of the city. Nathan joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. I thought you might need this, he said, handing her one. She smiled. Feels like a full circle moment. He looked at her. That day outside the building, you changed more than you'll ever know. You reminded me what my company should stand for, what I should stand for. Emma looked down at the cup in her hands. I just did what I hoped someone would do for me. Nathan's voice softened. That's why it mattered. They stood in silence for a while. The wind was cold again, but it didn't feel harsh this time. Then Nathan said quietly, You know, I've seen people with everything. Wealth, power, comfort. And yet they're empty. You gave me something money can't buy. Perspective, humanity. Emma looked up at him. And you gave me hope. A second chance, he smiled gently. Maybe that's what kindness really is. Giving each other reasons to keep going. Years later, people across the country would know about the Sterling Renewal Centers, places where families could rebuild their lives with dignity. But few knew the story that started it all. A single act of kindness on a cold morning, shared between a tired young mother and a stranger who wasn't who he seemed. Emma often thought about that day. She'd tell her daughter, now grown, that compassion isn't something you plan. It's something you give when no one's watching. And whenever she passed someone sitting alone on a street corner, she'd stop not because she pitied them, but because she remembered how everything good in her life began with one simple choice: to care.